Library and Ideas. This is a live edition. And the topic for tonight is politics is a game, and if you're not careful, you'll be the one getting played. And what I mean by that is this: that old adage of divide and conquer, I see it playing out right now during this presidential election cycle. They had the line split right down the middle, and they want most people to fall on either the right or the left. But it's a game because the right and the left are working for the same people. They're getting the same marching orders. And it's one of those things that I know if you're not paying attention to what they call conspiracy theories or what organizations like the NSA, the CIA, the FBI, what they're doing in the background, hell, what some of these private corporations are doing in the background, then you're missing a large part of the game. Now, our country has participated in regime changes all across the world. And my question is, if they're willing to do that to other people, why wouldn't they do that over here to us? Why would they put so much stock in what we, the people, want? They're giving us the illusion of choice. Excuse me. And one of the books, and I always like to bring y'all books to go out and read for yourself. But one of the books that speaks about that is called The New Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And basically, this is by John Perkins. He was a EHM, an economic hitman. And his job was to work as an economist for a company called Maine. They would go to different developing countries, and his job was to forecast what positive things would happen for their country if they took out all this money in loans from different funds like the IMF or US aid. So the forecasts were not real. It was just to justify them taking all that money so a few people could get rich. But most of the people in the country, most of the people in that country were not going to reap the benefits of them taking out that money. Only a few would get rich while the many would suffer. So one of the things that stuck out to me is when they were speaking about what happened in Iran. You know, there's a reason why Iranians don't like Americans or do not like the United States, because they had a prime minister that they elected, that they voted for, that they really liked, that the U.S. came in and manipulated things to get him out of power, and then they put in a guy called the Shah of Shahs. So let me read to you what it says. This is from the chapter called "In for Life." All right. Claudine described how, throughout most of history, empires were built largely through military force or the threat of it. But with the end of World War II, the emergence of the Soviet Union, and the specter of nuclear holocaust, the military solution became just too risky. The decisive moment occurred in 1951 when Iran rebelled against a British oil company that was exploiting Iran's natural resources and its people. The company was the forerunner of British Petroleum, today's BP. In response, the highly popular, democratically elected Iranian Prime Minister and Time magazine's Man of the Year in 1951, Mohammad Mossadegh, nationalized all Iranian petroleum assets. And outraged England sought the help of her World War II ally, the United States. However, both countries feared that military retaliation would provoke the Soviet Union into taking action on behalf of Iran. Now, pause. Think about that. England was mad because the Iranians was like, well, we should be the ones who benefit the most from the oil that's coming out of our land. And the English are thinking to themselves, the nerve of these people who want their own resources to go to their own people. We got to do something about this. So they came to America. It's like, hey man, we can't let these Iranians get out of hand, or else this is going to start a problem. So it continues. Instead of sending in the Marines, therefore, Washington dispatched CIA agent Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore's grandson. And remember, Theodore Roosevelt was a president. He performed brilliantly, winning people over through payoffs and threats. He then enlisted them to organize a series of street riots and violent demonstrations, which created the impression that Mossadegh was both unpopular and inept. In the end, Mossadegh went down and he spent the rest of his life under house arrest. The pro-American Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi became the unchallenged dictator. Kermit Roosevelt has set the stage for a new profession, the ranks of which I was joining. And again, Derek on there, what's up, Tuku for life. And again, he's joining the ranks of being an economic hitman. And what they finding out, well, there is more than one way to get something done. So it continues. There was one problem, however. Kermit Roosevelt was a CIA employee. Had he been caught, the consequences would have been dire. He had orchestrated the first U.S. operation to overthrow a foreign government, and it was likely that many more would follow. But it was important to find an approach that would not directly implicate Washington. Fortunately for the strategists, the 1960s also witnessed another type of revolution, the empowerment of international corporations and of multinational organizations such as the World Bank and the IMF. The latter were financed primarily by the United States and our sister empire builders in Europe. A symbiotic relationship developed between governments, corporations, and multinational organizations. So like I was saying, if you're not aware of what these people have going on, it'll be easy for you to be misled. And like I said, it's the idea of divide and conquer, especially over here in the United States. They want it right down the middle, and they want the people to fall on either side. Because when you're emotionally connected to either side of the debate and you can't see the good and bad points on either side, that's when you're blindly following. And that's how they trap you. It's a game. Let's see. He continues. By the time I enrolled in Boston University's business school, a solution to the Roosevelt as CIA agent problem had already been worked out. U.S. intelligence agencies, including the NSA, would identify prospective EHMs who could then be hired by international corporations. These EHMs would never be paid by the government. Instead, they would draw their salaries from the private sector. As a result, their dirty work, if exposed, will be chalked up to corporate greed rather than to government policy. In addition, the corporations that hire them, although paid by government agencies and their multinational banking counterparts with taxpayer money, will be insulated from congressional oversight and public scrutiny, shielded by a growing body of legal initiatives, including trademark, international trade, and freedom of information laws. It's a game. And they're good at it. They've been playing it for a long time. They're like, well, how can we, switch these countries' leadership over, do it illegally, but do it without anybody knowing it's us? Economic hitman. It's a brilliant way to do that. All right, so the woman that's training him, she says, we're paid, well paid, to cheat countries around the globe out of billions of dollars. A large part of your job is to encourage world leaders to become a part of a vast network that promotes U.S. commercial interests. In the end, those leaders become ensnared in a web of debt that ensures their loyalty. We can draw on them whenever we desire to satisfy our political, economic, or military needs. In turn, these leaders bolster their political positions by bringing industrial parks, power plants, and airports to their people, Meanwhile, the owners of U.S. engineering and construction companies become very wealthy. Honestly, it's brilliant. It's diabolical, but it's a brilliant way of doing things. But if you understand that concept of the energy that you put out comes back to you magnified, you can see why this is a problem. You're interfering in all these other countries, you're playing all these games, and you're playing games on the American people. There's consequences to that. And I believe we're going to see those consequences. Again, this is readings from the New Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And what I want to say is that you have to be in control of your emotions. And it's a hard thing to do. Because even I look online and I see people posting things on Facebook and Instagram. And I stop myself from commenting because, you're not going to convince anybody from a comment section one way or the other. Most people have their minds made up. So even I'm not on here to convince you. If I can convince you of anything, it's to go out and read something for yourself and make up your own mind. Don't just get your talking points from people from TV or somebody or a personality that you see on television. Go out and do your own research. You have the capability to do so. Wow, some of these comments are funny. Why does every black person have a YouTube live? I don't know. I guess we have something to say. Shalom to you as well. Somebody says Trump 2024. All right. Somebody else says I'm going to keep eating my poop. Hey, have at it. But that's interesting. Like I said, on this channel, it's all about, I just like to show books that I've read that I found interesting. And I really feel like if more people actually took the time out to read and to contemplate, it'll be much more difficult for the powers that be to manipulate us. Another book that I'm working on is called Chaos: Charles Manson, the CIA, and the Secret History of the 60s. Excuse me, let me grab some water. Look like a guitar player. I actually play the saxophone. Guitar is not an instrument that I've ever mastered. And they have to put their fingers in some weird positions. So I admire guitar players, but nah, that's me. But thank you. So basically, most of you should know who Charles Manson is. Now, what's not known that Tom O'Neill found out while he was researching for this book is that Charles Manson very well may have been an asset of the CIA or the FBI or some other government agency. He found evidence that he was a participant in MK Ultra. And if you've never heard of MK Ultra, it is a mind control program. Check out the movie The Manchurian Candidate with Denzel Washington. Perfect movie that shows how that happens. And now they'll show it to you, in a movie and make it seem like, oh wow, that's crazy. That can never happen. But these are things that they actually do. They know how to use trauma, repetition, and symbols to make another person inside of your head, to create a split personality. You hear a key phrase and you snap into something else. And that different personality can go on and complete a task that's been assigned to it. They study all this stuff. They study the mind. They know how to play into our emotions. That's why you see such an emotional stance happening with this election. I see people online saying, yo, if you're not with so-and-so, fuck you, take yourself off my friend list. Matter of fact, nah, block, 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 block. I'm going on the block party. And this is happening on both sides. We see these things happen back and forth. Just a little while ago, it was the pandemic. And it was like, oh, if you don't get this, then I ain't going to be your friend. I don't want to be around you. Why don't you just go and do the right thing and take this shot? And guess what happened? The whole story changed. It's always something to get us emotional. So the key is to take back control of your emotions. Don't let them play you. That's the idea. They want to play you. They want to keep you either at a high or at a low. But they never want you to be calm, cool, and collected to where you can make your own decisions. What's this say? His choice of drug. He was doing a whole lot of LSD. I have another book up there, The Teachings of Don Juan. This guy did a whole lot of mescaline and like mushroom trips. But LSD is a synthetic drug. I think it's like the synthetic version of what you would get in mushrooms, psilocybin, something. Whatever that drug is, the hallucinogen in mushrooms, that's what LSD is supposed to be. And he did give out a whole lot of LSD. And in fact, what they're discovering, what he discovered in this book, it seems like Charles Manson had training in that MK Ultra techniques, because he was able to get other people to go and do killings for him. He had followers that was like, yo, he'll tell them to go and do something. I want you to go up there and murder these people. They'll do it. Just like that. Don't even ask any questions. And that's mind control. When they can control what you're doing without you even thinking about it. That is amazing. LSD isn't like mushrooms. I understand that. It's a man-made version of it. It's not natural. And that's why it can have those bad side effects. So yes, I do understand that. Let me see if I can find that book. All right. It's called The Teachings of Don Juan by Carlos Castaneda. Now check this out. In 1968, University of California Press published an unusual manuscript by an anthropology student named Carlos Castaneda. The teachings of Don Juan enthralled a generation of seekers dissatisfied with the limitations of the Western worldview. Castaneda's now classic book remains controversial for the alternative way of seeing that it presents and the revolution in cognition it demands. Whether read as an ethnographic fact or creative fiction, it is the story of a remarkable journey that has left an indelible impression on the life of more than 1 million readers around the world. So yeah, taking hallucinogenics with a shaman out in Mexico, this was a good story. But again, do your own research. Don't believe what I say. Go check it out for yourself. That's the best thing that you can do. Anybody that presents you as like an authority, you have the right to be like, where'd you get that from? How'd you come up with that? And go and check it out. The problem is a lot of us stay too busy with other things that we find ourselves not having the time to go and do that research. DMT is good for a trip. Yep. Toad venom. He did acid 300 times. Wow. All right. I've never done acid, but good for you, man. I hope you had a good experience. But anyway, like I said, stop letting them play you. Don't let yourself be moved emotionally from one place to the other. You should have the power to make up your own mind for yourself. And don't just believe people when they say things. You are far intelligent enough to make up your own mind. But I think that's going to do it for tonight. You guys subscribe to my channel, Ron's Library and Ideas, and I'll holler at y'all later. Peace. And thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate that. So, all right, see y'all next time.